Good morning, and thank you for joining me today. Yesterday in my sermon, we talked about the second commandment that talks about making idols. And it said, we can't make an idol that we worship and bow down to. And we actually spent most of our time in the New Testament. The original command is written in Exodus 20. But if you look in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, you see Paul has an amazing description of Israel and how they fell into idolatry and what that means. And he compared it to the church in the city of Corinth where he was writing the letter, to, and showed that it's very easy for us to take things in the church, our church traditions, and the things that we begin to just accept as the absolute truth. We can turn those very things in church into idols, because the idea of an idol is not just simply an object that we set on a pedestal or that we put in a temple. An idol is anything that we allow to replace God in our life. If I begin to love and prioritize anything beyond God, it becomes an idol. And we can even do that with the good things in church. But I want to go back this morning to Exodus 20, to the original command, and look at some things we didn't have time to look at yesterday. So let's take a look, Exodus chapter 20, and read verses 4, 5, and 6. Here's what it says. Do not make an idol for yourself, whether in the shape of anything in the heavens above, or on the earth below, or in the waters under the earth. Do not bow and worship to them, and do not serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the father's iniquity to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing faithful love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commands. I want to focus on that last part of it that talks about God punishing the children for the father's iniquity. That simply means sin, for the wrong things that the fathers have done. And it says that they would be punished to the third and fourth generations. And it gives us the idea that the things that the parents did that were sinful, that were wrong things, the children would be punished for those things. And that really is not what this passage means. Because as we look at the rest of the Bible to keep this passage in the greater context, it is very clear. Every one of us, every person has a responsibility and accountability to God for everything that we do. And so I'm not responsible for anything that my parents did. God doesn't punish me directly for their sins, just as God doesn't punish my sons for anything that I've done that's wrong. I'm responsible to God for everything I've done that's wrong in my life. So that's the principle, that's the greater principle that we need to understand this within. What this talks about is the power of influence, that when we as parents do things that lead our children away from God, when we're sinful, and in this context, we're talking about idols. When I have elevated anything in importance in my life above God, no matter what it is, and no matter what I say to my children, they still see what I'm doing in my life, and they recognize, Dad's career is much more important to him than going to church and worshiping God. Or, that new car that my dad just got, he loves that a lot more than he loves God. And so those types of things come into play in a very powerful way, because our children will watch us and see what we do, and they imitate. And so what this is reminding us is, when I do things that are setting up idols in my life, it influences other people, not just our children, but I think that's one of the greatest areas of the most powerful influence we will ever have within the family. But even beyond that, people around me are always watching, and they see the things that I do as well as the things that I say. And I can have an influence for good, or I can have an influence for bad, depending on what truly is the priority, the value of my life. And if I am truly loving God in everything that I do, it's going to be seen in how I live my life, and that will have a very powerful influence on everyone around me. And I think the passage is telling us that the power of good is much more powerful than the power of bad, because I can do a lot of damage by doing sinful things, particularly for my children when they watch me and they follow that example. God will hold them accountable for what they choose to do, but they learned it from me. And that's the danger. But when we, as parents in particular, will teach our children and live by those same principles we're teaching them, that God is number one in my life, and we truly live that out, that is amazingly powerful. And they will not always follow that. I mean, the most godly parents have children that have gone away from trusting in God. But the general principle is, when the children see the parents live by genuine faith, making God the greatest love of their life, they'll follow that example. So let me encourage you in your life to remember that power of influence, whether it's with your family or with the people that you work with in your office. Maybe you're a student and you're going to school. The things people see in your life will have great influence on them in how they see God. So it's a big, big encouragement to us. You know what? I really do need to live these things out and not just say the right things. So thank you so much for being with me today, and may God continue to watch over your life and bless and use you. Thank you so much, and God bless you.